Everybody, welcome back to the channel. So I finally finished watching Daredevil Born Again, and I watched the first season of the Netflix Daredevil show to kind of get ready for this show. So I was kind of a little bit caught up at least, and I kind of remembered enough about the Punisher storyline to go into this. Not that it really matters, but I remembered enough of it. So before we get into my review, be sure to hit the thumbs up button if you like the videos and subscribe to the channel for more Marvel content. Alright, so let's get into my review for Daredevil Born Again. Okay, so I liked the first season of the Netflix Daredevil show. I didn't love it. Like, I know a lot of people really love that Daredevil show. And I was kind of hoping that this new show would be maybe a little bit better. And I gotta say that I don't love this new one either. It really does kind of feel just like a little bit more of a continuation of that Netflix show, but like set within the proper MCU context. And I will say that I think the shows both have problems, but they're kind of like opposite of each other in a way, almost. So what I really liked about the Netflix Daredevil show was it had a really good story. It was telling. It had really good characters. It really it was a great way to establish this version of Matt Murdock as the Daredevil and him evolving the character and his storyline with Kingpin and the Kingpin's character and how he's evolving. So all of that stuff really worked. I'll say, though, what I didn't like about the Netflix Daredevil show is at times it really kind of dragged a little bit. And I feel like we could have maybe cut off an episode or two of that season and kind of really tightened up the pacing a little bit better. So for Daredevil Born Again, it kind of has the opposite problem. I think the pacing is actually pretty good. I think the number of episodes was the right amount, and I feel like each episode was paced pretty well. Like, it felt like it flew by. The problem is the story really was not very coherent, and I'm not really sure what they were trying to do or say. And this was originally supposed to be like 18 episodes. And I could kind of see that if this was the first 9 episodes and maybe season 2 is the next 9 episodes, because this really does kind of feel like a mid-season cliffhanger, and then you go on winter break and then the show comes back for a traditional network show. Also kind of feels like the finale episode kind of feels like the penultimate episode of a normal TV show, so the second to last episode before the finale. So it just really feels kind of a little incoherent and incomplete, as opposed to the Netflix shows. They feel very complete and one whole storyline meshes well together, but I felt they were a little bit slow in areas. This one definitely was paced a lot better. Just the storyline was kind of all over the place, and this is what they had to go back and reshoot. Imagine how messy it might have been from what they originally wanted to do with the show. Or maybe the storyline would have continued throughout the 18 episodes and it would have been more of a coherent one instead of just kind of feeling like an abrupt ending almost. So with this season, I really obviously spoilers, they killed off Foggy in the first 10 minutes of the first episode, which is really sad. I loved Foggy in the Netflix show. Karen is barely in this. She's in the first episode and the last episode, and that's it. They teased the Punisher was going to be in here. Again, he's in one scene in the middle of episode 4 or 5 or something, and then he's in a couple scenes at the end of the final episode. The big bad was supposed to be kind of Muse was but he wasn't really the big bad, because it's always Kingpin, right? But Muse was one of the villains, and I just feel he was really underdeveloped. He really had kind of just the one episode, and then he dies. They kind of teased him in the first few episodes, but then he had just the one episode, episode 6 or 7 or 8 or something, and then he dies. So he was a bit of a letdown. I wish we could have maybe developed him as a better character, why he's doing all this. It kind of feels like he gets that one scene with the therapist to kind of just tell you all about who he is, and then he's dead. So that was a bit of a letdown. White Tiger was also a little bit of a letdown. We don't really get to see him in action too much, and then he dies. Too many people dying in this season. Now, I don't really know the Bullseye character Poindexter, because I never actually saw this last third season of the Netflix Daredevil show. So he's kind of just a non-entity other than he kills Foggy in the first episode, and then the last episode we find out why. And that's it with him. And then the middle of the show is really just kind of about Matt finding the motivation and not fighting against his inner urges to go back and be the Daredevil again. And that's really what the main show is, and it parallels the same thing with Wilson Fisk about him trying to be a better man and not to be the violent kingpin, ultimately to be like, no, that is just who I am. And so by the end of the season, they're back to Daredevil and Kingpin again, and the same old dynamic. And we are told, like, that, after he got shot in the eye, he kind of just left for, like, a year or so or whatever, and Vanessa was running things. I do like getting a bit more with the Vanessa character and seeing how her character has evolved throughout the years. And this really does feel like it's picked up, like, 10 years or later from that time of the Netflix show. So I do kind of like that, like, in terms of, like, the continuity a little bit. But again, I feel like they should have. It just feels really weird because of the Kingpin we got in the Hawkeye show and the Echo show. That Kingpin didn't really fit with the Netflix Daredevil Kingpin. Also doesn't really fit with this version of the Kingpin either. I just feel like it wasn't going to be connected to the Netflix stuff. And then because they said, yeah, we're going to connect it, now that kind of just feels really out of place. And I kind of don't like that. I kind of really wish they would have just, like, recast a whole new Daredevil, like, if that's what we're going to do. Or just completely cut the ties off from the Netflix show. Or just say this is, like, a different, like, since we're in the multiverse anyway, this could just be, like, this universe and the Netflix show would have been, like, a multi-universe, So, I don't know. I kind of just don't like how they're mixing it up. It just feels a little messy. So, kind of just wish, it's always best just do a clean, fresh break. But, oh well. And also really kind of think, no offense to Vincent D'Onofrio, but he's getting old. I want his Kingpin to just kind of retire, honestly. I'm kind of tired of the Kingpin, or at least his version of the Wilson Fisk character and Daredevil. Let's move on. Let's build up these other villains, to be maybe the main villain that Daredevil's always fighting against. We don't need Kingpin anymore, in my opinion. Let's just be done with him. Of course, we're not going to be, so whatever. But this really just kind of cemented to me, like, all right, we've told the Kingpin story. Let's move on. Let's, instead of rehashing Kingpin again, we could have gotten a better version of the Muse character or Bullseye or whatever, like, villain there is. So that's disappointing. As far as White Tiger goes, I do think maybe they're kind of leaving the door open for his niece to take over as the White Tiger, because I don't know if this is from the comics, but on the Spidey and Amazing Friends animated children's show that my son loves to watch, and I've seen every episode probably, at least 10 times, there is a female White Tiger in that show. So maybe they're leaving the door open for the niece to become the White Tiger. I really wish we would have developed all of that stuff. You really have to kind of know who the White Tiger is. All they say is, like, he has a magic amulet. And I'm like, and that he's from, I don't even know which country, I'm sorry, Puerto Rico, maybe? But, like, that's it. So I just feel like a lot of the characters don't have proper character arcs. And then there's that, like, bank scene in, like, the whole episode takes place in the bank. And, like, they were trying to sneak the jewel out, but, like, that whole plot thread went nowhere. It was just a way to, shoehorn in Kamala Khan's dad, which I loved. He's a great character, and I love them mentioning, they constantly kept mentioning Kamala, though. But I do love that mention that, she's out there. She's in California, right, making the Young Avengers or whatever. But that storyline, did that go anywhere? Like, because at the end, like, the lady had the jewel bag. You thought she was just one of the random hostages, but no, she has the jewel bag. But hey, there's no jewel in there, and then it's at, like, Kamal's dad's desk, and, like, does he just, like, return it to the vault? or like who was hired to steal it. Like, I don't know. So that's kind of just like, I mean, it's a good episode. It was a way to get Matt in action without being in the Daredevil costume, and I think what they were really trying to do. But again, the plot line kind of just doesn't go anywhere, and that's kind of the uncohesive nature of this whole season. Just feels kind of up and down a little bit. I kind of liked the new characters that we got. So, his girlfriend, the therapist, she was all right. The new lawyer partner that he's working with, she's all right. The cop guy, Cherry something, he's all right. Like, all the new characters are just kind of all right. And again, I wish we would have got more with the Muse character and like follow up with that the niece of White Tiger. Like, is she okay? Is she going to be traumatized forever? Is that what's going to make her want to be the next White Tiger? So there's just kind of a lot of loose plot threads and stuff. But again, I thought the pacing from episode to episode was decent. Like, if you were just watching this one episode a week, yeah, I'd be like, oh yeah, this is a really good show. But when you kind of binge it, it doesn't really hold together as well. So, I mean, and I did like all the lawyer stuff in the first few episodes. I did like that, seeing Matt be an actual lawyer. We didn't get enough of that in the first season of the Netflix Daredevil show, I thought. I want more courtroom scenes. I would really love for Matt and She-Hulk again to meet up and do some court drama stuff. That would be fun. Maybe in season 2. I know they announced Jessica Jones is coming back in the second season, so I might have to go back and rewatch that first season of Jessica Jones. Haven't seen it since it originally came out like 10 years ago. I do love Kristen Ritter in the role, and I never saw like her second or third season. I did actually like the gang all together in the Defenders show. Like, that wasn't like a great show, but like I kind of liked the team dynamic in there, so we'll see if they end up bringing back Iron Fist and Luke Cage or not. I'm going to say more or less not, but I know fans really wanted Jessica Jones back, and now that Matt and Karen are putting together this like team to go against Wilson Fisk's anti-vigilante team, so it makes sense to kind of bring those other Defenders characters in. Kind of where we left off with Punisher, I don't know. I know we're going to get like a special with him, so we'll see how that goes. So, yeah, overall, this was an okay show. I had some good moments, had some low. I think it's the opposite problems as the Netflix Daredevil show, which, if I had to say which one was better, I honestly don't really know, because a part of my enjoyment of something is the pacing. Like, if something's paced too slow for my taste, I just enjoy it a little bit less. So even though I loved like the storyline and all the characters in that first Netflix season, I don't know that this is any really better than that. I would say maybe slightly the Netflix Daredevil show is definitely better than maybe Daredevil Born Again. But I think with some improvements, Daredevil Born Again could be better than the Netflix show. So we'll see what happens in season 2. I hope they fix these problems. Now that they're kind of, because it was like a weird, like, they had the show, they were working on it, and then they kind of had to scrap a lot of things and like a mixed assembly cut of whatever's going on. So I'm hoping that it's going to just be like a clean start over with a season 2 from the beginning. They don't have to go back and, do any, reshoots and script changes and stuff. So hopefully that'll make it feel more cohesive going forward. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I enjoyed most of the show, had some problems. I know a lot of people really love that Netflix Daredevil show, and if you do, that's great. I don't love it, but I think it's really good. So, and I am looking forward to maybe going back and watching Jessica Jones. Again, don't know if I'll be reviewing that or any of the other, characters, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, Defenders. Probably. We'll see how much time I have. But anyway, so let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Thank you for watching the video. Stay tuned to the channel for more Marvel content. And I have other videos coming shortly for other reviews. So stay tuned to the channel for that. Thank you all. And until next time, avocados at law. Bye.